All right, good afternoon. The board meeting of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and its component units is now called to order. Due to challenges related to the ongoing COVID public health crisis, in-person attendance at today's meeting will be limited to commissioners and Port Authority staff required to conduct the meeting and credentialed members of the media, subject to capacity limitations. For all others, the meeting is being held virtually via teleconference, with the proceeding live from the Port Authority website. On September 15th, the Audit Committee and Committees on Finance met in executive session. Earlier today, the Committee on Operations met in public. The Committee on Finance met in executive session, both independently and jointly with the Audit Committee. The reports will be filed with the official minutes of today's board meeting. The Commissioners also met in executive earlier today to discuss matters related to personnel and personnel procedures, matters involving ongoing negotiations or reviews of contracts or proposals, matters related to the purchase, sale, or lease of real property, where a disclosure would affect the value thereof or the public interest, and to discuss and act upon matters related to proposed, pending, or current litigation or judicial or administrative proceedings. At this time, I'd ask everyone to stand for a moment of silence to remember the 20th anniversary of September 11th. And we remember as we stand that we have lost 84 of our colleagues, including 37 police officers from the port, first responders, and recovery workers who were lost as a result of the 9/11 related illnesses. And we ask at this time you also have a moment of silence for those individuals who perished in the 1993 bombing. Thank you. All right, this time we have a special tribute, special recognition, some of which we have been doing. It seems like it's a long farewell, Michael. We've been doing this for some time now, and I'm running out of good things to say. But I got 40 years to pull upon here, so for those that don't know, Michael Messiah, after 4 decades, 40 years of dedicated and amazing service to the Port Authority, has decided that tomorrow will be his last day. And I've talked to a lot of his colleagues over the last few weeks to talk about what Michael has meant to this agency. And Rick and I had the joy of serving with him for the last 4 years, which I note is 1/10 of your service. And Michael, it is incredible. It's an incredible ride you've been on. And as I stated before, you have really established the gold standard. You are the role model for all of the Port Authority people to achieve and try to mirror and copy. And I said before, earlier today, when you say you're leaving behind, you're taking your physical properties with you, but you're leaving such a spirituality, you're leaving such a permanency of the work that you've done, Michael. And the folks that can talk about what you did at HR and budget and capital, all that, I can just tell you, as the head of diversity and the head of diversity has meant a lot in terms of what we went through 4 years ago, Michael. And you stepped up and you filled a role, and you said, in many ways, this has to be a more inclusive place. And you led by example. And really, the unfortunateness of the murder of George Floyd last year, kind of brought it to a head how special your contributions had been. And it wasn't just this last year, Michael. You had practiced this for 40 years. And maybe everybody at the port was not listening for 40 years, but this is your lifeblood. This is your mission, your advocation, your profession. You have really shared all of those collective experiences of 40 years and pushed them onto us, and certainly Rick and I and the commissioners here for the last 4 years, and we're a better place for it. So, we're going to give you a plaque, Michael. We're going to say some nice things, but it goes well beyond that. Like what you have done, and you look at the people you've worked with the last 20 and 30 years, you have such a permanency here. You have such an impact here, and it's not going to go away. When you say the word legacy, like few of us can say we've actually left a living, breathing legacy. Michael, you've done that. You just point to the 25 initiatives that we're working on this Leadership Steering Committee, which is not just going to be checked and done. They will live with this agency for presumably the next 100 years. So Michael, again, I say to your family members, I want to thank you for sharing you. You're such a special person with us for the last 40 years. And you have educated us. You've taught us about tolerance. You've taught us about respect. You've done it in a way, Michael, that transcends how most of us human beings have either been brought up or who we've socialized. You've taught us to be better people. And I can't thank you enough for that. So before we go on and we're going to present, I'm asking my commissioners and the executive director after their comments to come down, and we're going to present a plaque that's got very small writing, and I'm not going to be able to read that. And we can't capture it or hear, Mike, and I mean that. So having said that, I asked the executive director to share some of his comments, which he has done privately, and then I'll ask the commission if they want to add anything. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael, this is bittersweet. You've devoted such a long time to this agency. You've been such a partner. I should say to everyone, I learned today that I owe Michael at least 2 apologies. One is for waking him up on occasion. And the other, I should apologize to your wife because I twisted your arm to stay 4 years. But it has really been a privilege to work for you. I was trying to think of what are the attributes that I just free associate with you. And steady, empathetic, wise, really wise, hardworking, vast integrity, teaching about unconscious bias to the entire agency, calling attention to issues that need to be addressed, and working so hard on the culture of the agency. And I think that is the inspiration. The Leadership Steering Committee recommendations, which were intended to respond to the Black Lives Matter movement, you have just embraced and really thought through what does that mean, how does one respond to it, how does one address it, and how to put it in action. And for me, it's been a wonderful learning experience to work with you for these last 4 years, to watch you in action, to listen most of the time to your advice, and to watch what you've done with the broad array of responsibilities that were within the diversity and inclusion portfolio, many of which were business imperatives. And I think that's one of the things that I think you've taught us all, which is that diversity and inclusion is really a business value. And it's a business imperative as well as a moral one. So certainly wish you Godspeed and good luck in your retirement. We will miss you.
Commissioner Craig?
Sure, thank you. In the short time that I've gotten to know you, sir, I've said this before publicly, but I do believe it's worth repeating. Having worked in the public sector most of my career, used the term before, Director, what you have done has been extraordinary to move along this incredibly important endeavor and initiative in such a quick, efficient, and effective manner, which is not easy to do for anybody who works in a large bureaucracy, especially something like the Port Authority. But to do it with the urgency, but there was a mythology to it, it was amazing to see. It was extraordinary, Director, to use your term again. And so much so that Michael and his team were kind enough to come down to Middlesex County and meet with the leaders of Middlesex County, including the director, the commissioner director, the administrator, the director of HR, to talk about the model that you have set up. And in fact, they were so impressed that they're going to continue to look at that model. They're doing it now. And they're going to incorporate the strategies that you set up to make sure that Middlesex County is in fact prepared from an HR standpoint. And also, as you said, Director, to make sure that the county is morally addressing the issues that we all are encountering in different bureaucracies. So in the short time that I've gotten to know you and worked with you, it has been breathtaking by which you've been able to undertake such an impactful initiative. But the way you did it from someone who worked in a bureaucracy, to be able to do it in the manner that you did to you and your entire team is extraordinary and nothing but kudos. So I look forward to working with you. I'm sure Middlesex will be circling back with you at some point in time. That's running through my head. But nevertheless, congratulations on all that you've done for the Port Authority, sir, to you and your family.
Commissioner Eve?
Thank you, sir.
I will be brief. So many thoughts are running through my head right now. But first and foremost, I want to say thank you. Thank you and your wife and the rest of your extended family and friends who haven't seen as much of you as they thought they might have, given that Rick convinced you to stay an extra 4 years. The best way that I can summarize all the feelings I have about you and your extraordinary dedication is to say how profound your legacy is. Your legacy is truly profound, profound. Race is such a challenging issue for anybody to talk about. But under your leadership, with so many fellow leaders in the port and with the chairman and with the executive director, you not only talked about it and encouraged discussion, which is important in and of itself, but drilled down with not just hundreds of our colleagues, but thousands of port employees who, because of your leadership, felt comfortable in engaging in a process that has led to these initiatives, which you know, but I want to say to anyone who's listening or who's watching, who may not be familiar with the port, these 25 initiatives are real. They are meaningful. They are impactful. They have already begun to make a difference in an organization that by any objective measure is already great, and now it will be even greater. It'll, as the CEO of my company says, we're already great, we're now about to be fantastic. Because of your work, we're going from great to fantastic. As Rick said, this is a moral imperative, but it's a business imperative. You've changed the culture, improved upon the culture for employees, our customers, our partners, the communities in which we work and serve, and the port, just as we're leading in so many other respects, we are now leading nationally in this space, which is a challenge for so many organizations, both governmental and those in the private sector as well. Even the work that we heard earlier that the Chief Security Officer mentioned that is happening with respect to the Port Authority Police Department, which is something that I'm involved in as chair of the Security Committee, already a great police department, but is going to go from great to fantastic because it is going to be more diverse, more inclusive. We can't say enough about the profound effects of your work and your leadership and working with so many colleagues across the organization. And I also want to just, briefly note one of the areas that has always been a focus of mine, and I know my commissioners as well, your work with respect to MWBEs. I know the steering committee focus has been on diversity and inclusion, but your work in terms of making our vendor community more diverse and feeling more inclusive has also been equally profound. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for indulging me a little bit. My heart's overflowing. We've had, obviously, an executive session meetings where we have spoken so frankly, all of us, and passionately and emotionally about how challenging these issues are to deal with, but the imperative to deal with them. And there is no better model, I believe, in this entire country for what you and the team under the leadership of our chairman and our executive director have done. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think you're going to be quite busy consulting with lots of organizations, not just in New Jersey, New York, but around the country and potentially around the globe.
You're making the missus really happy right now.
But I share all the sentiments that the chairman and the executive director and Commissioner McCabe shared, and I would add one adjective to describe you, Michael, and that is your extraordinary perseverance. Because I'm sure there were days that were so emotionally draining that it was difficult to go on and press ahead, but you did with your fellow colleagues, and your dignity, your courage, your strength, your integrity, your dedication, your focus, and your perseverance has brought us to where we are today, with continued improvements to come. As a result, this great organization will be fantastic. It will be stronger and will be better for it, for not only our employees, but also for our customers, and as I said, for the broader community. So thank you, and I too wish you Godspeed.
Thank you, Commissioner Eve. Commissioner LaBarbera.
Yes, I will too make a few brief comments. I have a feeling my definition of brief is very different than Commissioner Eve's definition of brief.
Duly noted, Commissioner.
No, but obviously, Michael, and to your family, first I want to say congratulations. 40 years is quite an accomplishment. I certainly echo everything that's been said already, and I don't want to be redundant. But what I do want to say again is thank you for what you've added to this agency, the important work of addressing race and diversity. As Commissioner Eve said, these are important topics of the day. And in my final comments, before you consult, before you do anything, take some time for yourself. You've earned it. Enjoy it with your wife and your family, and enjoy each other. I wish you much happiness in your retirement and good health. And God bless you and your family. So thank you for all you've done.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to be heard? If not, we're going to ask the commissioners and the executive director to come. Michael, if you and your family want to come up, we're going to present you with the Service Excellence Award. You get them back. On behalf of the board and the executive director and the entire Port Authority family, let us present you with this Service Excellence Award, 40 years in the making, Michael. You want to remind. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Just quickly, I got into transportation because my grandmother's dreams were denied because she didn't have access to education because the secondary school was too far away from her sharecroppers. I don't even want to call it a house. And she couldn't get to the secondary school. She was first in her class in a one-room school. And so in thinking about that, I said, well, how could I provide public service? And so in my first interview in getting into the organization, one of the interviewers said, well, you seem like you have a lot of public service experience, but more in the direct service community, more in terms of welfare-related services, education. Why transportation? Why do you want to be here? And I was able to say clearly and loudly, transportation is the foundation for access even to those services. So if you don't have a strong infrastructure and we don't invest in our infrastructure, it disables you from accessing love, accessing wealth, accessing knowledge, on and on and on. So what better place can you truly provide social service than in a transportation environment? And so I've been blessed for 40 years to serve as a public servant in transportation, doing a whole variety of things from HR to finance to capital and now to D&I. So thank you for your support in all those endeavors over the years. Thank you for all your support in those endeavors over the years. It's made my life much better, and people who are in my grandmother's position have an opportunity because of the work we do in transportation. So thank you for this award. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Michael. Now we ask our executive director to provide his monthly report. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to begin, the agency remains focused on our ambitious agenda, even as we continue to respond and focus on the challenge of ensuring that we make both the traveling public and our employees safe from COVID-19 and its variants. Activity volumes across our facilities remain a tale of two worlds. On the one hand, our tunnels and bridges are approaching pre-COVID levels. Our seaport is well above pre-COVID levels. On the other hand, the airports and PATH continue to make a much slower recovery. Overall, we remain committed to the health and safety of the traveling public and our employees. Our facilities continue to operate at a very high standard, and the agency will continue to follow the latest public health guidance from federal, state, and local authorities. As I do at the beginning of these reports, in this challenging time of COVID, we continue to be profoundly grateful to all Port Authority employees for their dedication and extraordinary hard work through this crisis. It is their efforts which enable the agency to discharge its responsibilities. And we are also keenly grateful to the leaders of the 23 unions that represent the majority of our employees and who have been enormous helps through this crisis. Turning to the activity numbers at our facilities in a little more detail. At the airports for the week of September 20th to 26th, passenger volumes have remained down 36% compared to pre-COVID levels. Passenger volumes at the airport have remained relatively stable, roughly in the range of 35 to 40% down throughout the summer. At PATH for the week of September 20th to 26th, PATH ridership was down 53% compared to pre-COVID. That represents an increase, however, of 6 to 7% over ridership levels that prevailed in July and August. At the bridges and tunnels for the week of September 20th to 26th, vehicular crossings at the 4 bridges and 2 tunnels continue to approach pre-COVID levels, down just 3% from the pre-pandemic September 2019 weekly average. Vehicle volumes have held steady over the 3 months of July, August, and September. Bus passenger volumes at the Midtown Bus Terminal were down 55% compared to pre-COVID levels. At the port, in August 2021, volumes at the seaport were up 14.9% compared to August 2019, and this marks the highest ever August volume for the port, the 3rd highest monthly volume in the port's history, and the 12th consecutive month of record-setting volumes. With the volumes at PATH and the airports remaining significantly below pre-pandemic levels, even as the seaport marks record volumes, those lower levels continue to seriously impact both our operating revenues and our capital capacity. Our estimate of a $3 billion amount of lost revenue from the second quarter of 2020, the beginning of the COVID impact, to our projection through the first quarter of next year remains firm. It remains firm at $3 billion. With respect to workforce impacts on Port Authority employees, as of this Wednesday, yesterday, September 29th, 75 Port Authority employees have reported positive results for COVID-19 over the last 30 days. We continue to follow each one of these cases to ensure that individuals are receiving any and all medical care that they need. 138 employees, roughly 1.5% of the workforce, are currently self-quarantining. 1 employee is currently in the hospital. Both the positive cases and self-quarantine numbers are the highest end-of-month totals since April 2021. And as I said, we continue to monitor the situation closely. And we are committed to following all health and safety guidelines. Policy decisions regarding testing requirements and vaccinations have obviously become a large focus. Following guidance from both New York and New Jersey, the Port Authority is instituting a weekly testing protocol for unvaccinated employees in both states on October 18th. Turning to other developments at the agency, there is good news with respect to two Newark Airport capital projects. On August 13, the Federal Aviation Administration issued a record of decision for the Newark AirTrain project at Newark Airport, granting final approval for the project. This project, like the LaGuardia AirTrain project, is a key green rail mass transit infrastructure project that will dramatically upgrade the existing out-of-date Newark AirTrain with the goal of providing vastly improved service intended to get passengers out of cars, reduce road congestion, cut greenhouse gas emissions, and improve the reliability of travel to Newark Airport. Construction on the $2 billion Newark AirTrain replacement would begin in mid-2022 with new service to start in 2026. With respect to a immediately functional part of Newark Airport, on Monday, September 27th, this week, at runway 4R22L reopened to daytime operations after 3 months of closure to resurface this key runway. The project was deferred due to budgetary impacts related to the COVID-19 crisis, but it commenced with very tight procurement and construction deadlines, and the runway, as it opened this week, was finished earlier than forecast, with further adjacent work to be done at low traffic periods through next year. With respect to sustainability, I do want to report very quickly on Hurricane Ida. On the evening of September 1st, Hurricane Ida dropped record rainfall on the Port District, as we know. Newark Airport itself received more than 8.5 inches within a very short period, a truly stunning amount. Overall, Port Authority facilities operated well in the face of the storm, but there were several facilities that did experience significant flooding impacts. As a result of this storm, 2 after-action efforts are underway. The first is focused on immediate actions to mitigate in all respects the flooding impacts that did occur. And the second is to determine whether there are longer-term resiliency projects needed to respond to vulnerabilities recognized with respect to the unprecedented levels of rainfall from Hurricane Ida. A note on the Port Authority Seaport. The Seaport has actually outperformed its peers, particularly West Coast seaports, in the face of sustained record volumes and labor shortages. As of last week, based on news reports, the Port of Los Angeles, the biggest in the U.S., reported 70 container ships waiting at anchor to unload. Similar scenes are unfolding at other ports in the face of the unprecedented amount of cargo being moved. At the Port of New York and New Jersey, average wait times to unload in September have been less than 2.5 days, and the number of cargo container ships at anchor as of Monday, September 27, was 8. Thanks to extended terminal operating hours and a laser focus on collaboration and coordination among all the stakeholders at the port, the Seaport has kept the days at anchorage to a minimum. I just might mention the Council on Port Performance, that was started in 2014 by the Port Department, is a biweekly forum that facilitates coordination and communication and is a key element of achieving these results. And finally, at the Port Authority Bus Terminal, on August 20th, both the Midtown Bus Terminal and the George Washington Bridge Bus Terminal joined the agency's airports in achieving a very highly regarded cleaning accreditation from the Global Biorisk Advisory Council. To achieve this globally recognized rating, facilities must demonstrate comprehensive cleaning, disinfection, and infectious disease prevention programs. The enhanced cleaning regimes and this external accreditation are critical in assuring that we are providing a safe environment both for the traveling public and for our employees. With that, Mr. Chairman, I conclude my report.
Thank you very much, Rick. At this time, we're going to go to our speakers program. We received 4 written statements. We've received 4 video statements as well, which we'll be watching shortly. The written and videotape statements will be filed with the transcripts of today's meeting and posted on the Port Authority website after the meeting. And I'll point to that according to the clerk, our board secretary, the written statements are not related to any of the items before the board for approval. Is that accurate, Jim?
That is accurate.
Okay. Can we now play the videos?
Mi nombre es Florencio Velarde. Yo trabajo en el Building 340. Soy miembro de la 32J. Nosotros hemos luchado para tener todos los beneficios que estamos ahora, que es seguro médico, aumento de salario y otro beneficio más. Pero no hemos dado con la sorpresa de que Port Authority a partir de la quincena de diciembre ha rentado los buildings 340, 339 y 340 a Amazon. Y entonces nosotros estamos en la incertidumbre de que dónde vamos a trabajar. Vamos a perder nuestro salario que estamos ahorita en 17, porque si nos votan vamos a ganar el mínimo. Entonces, aparte de eso, Poutoy no nos comunicó, o al menos decir que ha hecho ese cambio. Entonces nosotros estamos exigiendo, o al menos saber si nos vamos a quedar trabajando en el terminal o cuál va a ser nuestro destino. Entonces estamos en esa incertidumbre. Quisiéramos saber. Quisiéramos una respuesta de Port Authority. Muchas gracias.
My name is Todd Fine. I'm a member of the Coalition for 100% Affordable 5 World Trade Center. And we have been asking for the past 7 months very basic questions from the Empire State Development Corporation about the 5 World Trade Center plan. And we haven't received any written responses. These were promised at a community board meeting in May. The Empire State Development has established a community advisory committee that doesn't include any of the local community members or groups that we suggested, and is primarily proposed of organizations with a financial stake in the outcome. This is not a good process, and it is discrediting and hurting the Port Authority politically. It's also occurring when almost every elected official, state, city, local, has been demanding that Port Authority and Empire State Development come to the table and pursue a different plan, a better plan that includes more affordable housing, which is the need now, especially after COVID, and was actually a community desire that was expressed widely in all those listening sessions after September 11th, but has not been met at all. In fact, affordable housing in this area has probably declined September 11th, despite a doubling or a triple of units, full residential units in Lower Manhattan. The agreement also is not legal, and in our view, and the Port Authority hasn't given any guidance on that. The original RFP made it quite clear that a residential win would have to be a sale. So the idea of a lease with the financing not being made clear, with no clarity about this or how it's being justified according to the clear wording of the Port Authority Charter, which implies commerce rather than residences, raises questions about why would we do this in a way that would create a large fight when the public doesn't want it, when it has questionable legality, when there doesn't seem to be any argument for it besides Silverstein and Brookfield establishing a mega mixed campus comparable to what we've seen Hudson Yards, the South Street Seaport, the Vornado campus. These are things that the public doesn't want. And the Port Authority really shouldn't be facilitating with, tax dollars, especially things that came from the federal government, from HUD money. So it's time for the Port Authority to listen to the public, listen to the elected officials, come back to the table and produce a different outcome that will be worthy of this 20-year World Trade Center reconstruction. Thank you.
Carolina Suárez, pertenezco a la Unión 32BJ, pertenezco al edificio 339, donde se radica la compañía de Bravo, que ellos le dan servicio a United. Tengo una gran preocupación, tengo entendido que Amazon va a coger toda esa área y entonces nosotros, por supuesto, tendremos que irnos para ir para otro lugar. La pregunta que yo hago, al irnos nosotros de ahí, seguimos con los beneficios que nos dan como nuestro salario o lo perdemos todo porque ya vamos fuera del aeropuerto. Eso es una pregunta que estoy muy preocupada. Y queremos que proteja todo lo que hemos luchado, todo lo que hemos adquirido, todos los beneficios, si es que continuamos, porque no se sabe lo que va a pasar.
Hello, my name is Terrence Bengston, and I'm a resident of the South Ward in the city of Newark. And I'm also the president of PANYNJ University, and also the parent of a 14-year-old child. I want to express my deep concern with the current proposed deal to provide Amazon with a lease to create an air hub at Newark International Airport. Amazon is a threat to our community's health and environment. Amazon's carbon footprint is enormous. By expanding their presence at the airport and by offering them a way to consolidate their presence in New Jersey and the East Coast, we are putting our communities at a health risk. Amazon's expansion means more trucks on our streets, more planes in our skies, particularly here in the South Ward, and more emissions. Our children's health is at stake here. We have not had the opportunity to weigh in on this deal. I believe that adds further insult to the already injury that's there. The Port Authority must take into account neighboring communities before entering into a deal with Amazon, such as Elizabeth and the West Ward of Newark. Amazon is now one of the largest employers in New Jersey. Its growth during the pandemic has been astronomical. Before the Port Authority enters into a deal with one of the wealthiest corporations in the country, we need to make sure the voices of local residents are heard. I have personally spoken with hundreds of community members throughout the community and campus over the past week in the South Ward, the West Ward, and East Wards, and with partners in Elizabeth, New Jersey. We all stand united, and we are hearing significant concerns from community members about the impact of Amazon on our infrastructure, the air we breathe, the streets we drive on, and the noise that it will create in our homes. We are also concerned about the quality of jobs at the facility. We ask that you stop the deal until we can provide community feedback. I thank you all for your time today.
Jim, that concludes all the video presentations?
Yes.
Great, thank you. We will now proceed with the voting of items on the boards for the board's consideration. Each of the respective committee chairs will provide a brief report prior to each of the matters being considered today. As Chair of the Committee on Operations, I will now present two items under the committee's purview. The first item, as presented at the Committee on Operations earlier today, authorizes a 15-year lease with a 5-year extension with American Express to provide a 50,000 square foot expansion of Newark Liberty International Airport New Terminal A, which will include the development of the airport lounge. Prior to making a motion, I ask the Board Secretary for any recusals.
There are no recusals.
Can I have any questions or comments from the commissioners before I ask for a motion? Motion, please.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Menendez? Yes. Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
Votes are in order. The item has been approved. The next item authorizes a restated and amended triple net lease with the Consolidated Edison Company of New York for the lease of 73,000 square feet in the basement and first 3 floors of 7 World Trade Center. Con Ed leases the space for the operation of a substation that serves the World Trade Center and other parts of Lower Manhattan. The agreement would be for a 50-year term retroactive to November 1st, 2020. Before making a motion, I ask the Corporate Secretary to note any recusals.
There are no recusals.
Any comments or questions from the commissioners? Hearing none, a motion, please. So moved. Here a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Menendez?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
Votes are in order. The item has been approved. I'll now ask Commissioner McCabe to provide his report as Vice Chair of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Chairman. As Chair of the Committee of Finance, I am recommending to the committee for consideration a resolution authorizing the purchase of public liability insurance coverage for all facilities of the Port Authority and its component units. This is a vote of the Finance Committee only. Prior to making a motion for this item, I ask the Corporate Secretary to note any committee members' recusals on this matter.
There are no recusals.
Do any of the commissioners have questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, I now request a motion on this item.
So moved.
Can I have a second? Thank you. I now request the Corporate Secretary to call the roll of the Committee on Finance for voting on this item.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Menendez?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
As the votes are in order, the item is approved. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner McCabe. There being no further business, I move to adjourn. We have a second.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much. Michael, to your family, thank you. Congratulations again.
Congratulations again.